Hello everyone, welcome back to Chateau Walls. I'm your host, and today we're taking a serious look at one of YouTube's most watched rural renovation channels, Escape to Rural France, starring the charismatic builder and gardener, Dan Preston, better known as Dan the Gardener. Before we get into that, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. On the surface, this is a feel-good story. An Englishman moves to rural France, buys a crumbling chateau or farm estate, renovates it with family, shares the journey, inspiring thousands of viewers. But as with any glossy narrative, there are layers beneath the veneer. In this video, I want to examine some of the less seen issues, structural and safety concerns, how the story is shaped, monetization, and what this sort of content means for viewers chasing the dream. Important note, this isn't a personal attack on Dan or his team. We all love renovation content, I do too. But if we care about ethics, transparency, and realistic expectations, we need to ask hard questions. Okay, let's dive in. So who is Dan the Gardener? He's a UK-born builder and gardener who moved to France and now documents major renovation work on rural French properties. His YouTube channel, Escape to Rural France, shows the purchase, renovation, struggles, and triumphs. He's built a large following. People love the escape the rat race to a French chateau fantasy. And on the surface, the cinematography, the pastoral life, the chickens, the big oak beams, it's all very aspirational, but there are recurring criticisms among viewers and online discussions. People have raised questions about his building methods, transparency, and whether the dream he's selling matches reality. Let's break down the main issues. One of the main criticisms revolves around building methods and renovation choices. Viewers have expressed concern about whether proper framing and structural supports are being used and whether safety codes are being followed. When you're renovating a large chateau or farm in France, there are serious engineering, permit, and heritage issues to consider. If a show glosses over those, viewers may form unrealistic expectations. Potential problems include safety and structure. If new windows or walls are installed without adequate framing, the load-bearing integrity can be compromised. Permits and compliance. France has strict preservation laws and safety codes. If the show doesn't disclose how those are handled, it can seem deceptively simple. Time and budget understatement. Renovations always take longer and cost more than they appear on camera. There's also the question of how mistakes are portrayed. Some viewers have pointed out early design or planning decisions that may have caused long-term issues. And that's not unique to Dan. It's a common trap in DIY-heavy renovation channels that prioritize speed and content over stability and craft. Why this matters? These shows inspire thousands of people. If viewers start tearing down walls or installing beams the way they saw online, without professional oversight, that's a genuine safety risk. Every YouTube channel is also a brand. Escape to Rural France isn't just a documentation of a renovation, it's an influencer brand built around the idea of rustic freedom, family, and creativity. That means the story is curated to maintain an image, the DIY hero, the simple rural dream, the we're making it work optimism. There's nothing wrong with that, but it can create blind spots. Poor social relationships are one example. Viewers feel emotionally connected to Dan and his family. That connection breeds loyalty, but it can also make critical discussion feel like betrayal. When fans are emotionally invested, any scrutiny feels personal. Then there's brand consistency. To keep the narrative uplifting, the darker or more chaotic moments often get edited out. The result? A version of reality that's inspiring but incomplete. And finally, there's monetization. As a channel grows, sponsorships, affiliate links, and sometimes merch become part of the business. Harkening vibes of Chateau de Lalande. That's normal, but it shifts the tone. Suddenly, the renovation isn't just a personal dream, it's a content pipeline. Choices may be made not just for functionality, but for how good they look in a thumbnail. In other words, the project starts shaping itself around the algorithm instead of the actual architecture. Let's talk money. Big renovations cost a fortune. Land, building materials, professional labor, taxes, permits, it adds up fast, and yet, in many of these renovation channels, finances are vague. We might hear the purchase price or a few project costs, but rarely the total budget or ongoing expenses. That makes it easy for viewers to underestimate how much money is required to pull something like this off. When creators rely heavily on ad revenue, Patreon, and sponsorships, the line between sharing a dream and selling a lifestyle can blur. The issue isn't that Dan or others monetize their channels, it's that transparency about how that money affects the renovation decisions is often missing. When the audience doesn't see the real numbers, they're left thinking, if I just sell my flat and move to France, I can do this too. In reality, the majority of people can't. That gap between inspiration and realism is the dark side of the escape narrative. The biggest illusion of all might be the rural lifestyle itself. Escape to rural France sounds peaceful: long walks, coffee in the courtyard, fresh air, community life. But rural France comes with its own hardships: isolation, complex bureaucracy, long distances to healthcare and shops, and maintenance that never ends. The fantasy of simpler living can mask the fact that it's actually harder living, just in different ways. Viewers are rarely shown the paperwork, the endless waiting for permits, or the emotional toll of constant financial uncertainty. The videos lean heavily into the aesthetic, the golden hour drone shots and charming crumbling walls, but the less romantic truth is that renovation is exhausting, expensive, and often lonely. When creators downplay that side, it creates an emotional dissonance. People start comparing their real, messy lives to someone else's curated highlight reel. And when they inevitably fall short, they feel like they've failed, when in reality, the playing field was never level to begin with. This isn't just about Dan, it's about an entire trend of escape content that markets the illusion of control, freedom, and beauty while hiding the instability beneath it. Why this matters for you? Your channel. 1740 to 1950, so why does all of this matter? Because transparency builds credibility. If you're a creator, or even just a viewer who wants to see through the noise, it's important to understand how the story is being told. The way renovation influencers frame their work shapes public expectations. And that, in turn, affects how future buyers, DIYers, and dreamers approach their own projects. I've said before, I love these channels. They bring joy, hope, and creativity into the world. But they also have a responsibility to show the full picture, not just the romantic one. And for creators like me on Chateau walls, it's a reminder to value honesty over polish. Show the setbacks, the delays, the real cost of doing something extraordinary. Because that's where the story actually lives. Closing thoughts. 19:50 End. In conclusion, Escape to Rural France remains a fascinating project, a man, a dream, a crumbling building brought back to life. Dan the gardener is talented, hardworking, and undeniably passionate, but passion doesn't erase problems. As with any influencer story, there's a gap between the dream we're sold and the truth we rarely see. Whether it's structural shortcuts, narrative spin, or the quiet cost of keeping the camera rolling, that gap deserves attention. If you're watching renovation channels, ask yourself, what aren't they showing me? What's happening off camera? How much does it really cost, emotionally and financially, to live this life? That curiosity, that willingness to look past the edit, is what keeps you grounded in reality. Thanks for watching, and if you like deep dives into the stories behind Chateau YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you next time on Chateau Walls, where we explore not just the dream, but the truth inside the walls.